that's a lot of water. Dan Duthie, I will bring you up now. And Dan lives in Orange County, like I do. He's the chair of the Conservation Board in Warwick, to start with a local volunteer affiliation. Dan is an attorney, and he's been working on the case he's going to talk about in Rockland County. He's also an MBA and a licensed civil engineer in New York. And he is an expert on utility law and is working, in addition to working on water issues that you'll hear about, he's also working with people in the region on energy issues, on energy conservation and planning for the grid, particularly. And I'm very excited to hear your views and story about the Rockland Water story. Thanks.
Well, happy birthday, Hudson River Watershed Alliance. I want to start first by acknowledging a couple of luminaries that are in the room here that are right in the thick of the Rockland County water supply planning. Harriet Cornell, also known as the First Lady of Rockland County. She is chairing the Rockland County Water Task Force. Along with her is Patrizzi, I think I got that right this time, Patrizzi Drake. She is a newly minted attorney, and she is the Rockland County Water Coordinator. And there's some other good friends here that have been comrade in arms in this undertaking. The Rockland community has been fighting United Water, unfortunately, for approximately 8 to 9 years. And Saul Rigberg is sitting with Al Appleton, and Saul is an attorney with the Utility Intervention Unit of the Department of State, and I'm going to leave out all the other terms that are in that title. Saul is going to be leaving state employment pretty soon and starting to enjoy retirement, but we're not going to let him get away too far from what we're doing here. So let me get started first with a little quick background. Everybody know where Rockland County is? Anybody been there? Okay, terrific. So Rockland County is actually outside of New York City, the smallest area-wise county in New York State. It has 199 square miles. And it is the 5th wettest county in New York State. Gets about 49 inches of rain on average. So just I want you to visualize a little bit what 49 inches of water looks like on 199 square miles. It's a lot of water. And I think Al Appleton said it best at a public statement hearing in connection with the need, we call it the need case. He said, Rockland County does not have a water supply problem. Rockland County has a water management problem. And I think that's been demonstrated. So to go back to the origin of the controversy in Rockland County, United Water in a 2006 rate case was ordered by the Public Service Commission to develop a long-term water supply by 2015, this year. And theoretically, they wanted it online before the summer period. Rockland County, within a month of getting that order, came back with a plan. Their plan was to build a desalination facility. Now, I know there's somebody in the audience that's particularly interested in desalination. Fascinating technology, very useful when you don't have any fresh water, but we have lots of fresh water. Meanwhile, the plan was to put the desalination plant in Haverstraw Bay and take the water out of, brackish water out of Haverstraw Bay. Well, eventually the community kind of woke up, and there's some people here, like Laurie Seaman and her colleagues, said, wait a minute. Aside from the yuck factor, we don't want that water. It's 3 miles downstream from Indian Point. What if something goes wrong? We don't have anything to detect any radioisotopes that may be getting sucked into the water stream. And then they looked at it further, and they found that there's this brine that comes out of this desalination process. Where do we put that? Oh, that's going to go back into Haverstraw Bay. So the concerns grew, and then they started to look at what the costs were going to be. The initial cost was about $69 million for 2.5 MGD of supply. Now let me put that in context. 2.5 million gallons is going to cost $69 million, okay? By the time we got to early 2013, that cost had risen to $153 million. The entire rate base for United Water New York was about 300. So with one project that was only going to produce a small amount of water relative to what their existing capacity is, which was 34.5 million gallons a day, they were going to be paying a huge amount. In fact, we estimated that with the operating and maintenance costs, because over 50% of the cost of a desal plant is the electricity, hugely energy intensive, totally going the wrong way. So with lots and lots of public outcry, the citizens groups got along with the elected officials on both sides of the aisle. Eventually, the second floor, i.e. the governor's office, heard it. Next thing, the Public Service Commission initiated a proceeding in order to determine, is there still a need for this long-term water supply? And so ultimately, the commission last November said, no, there is no compelling need for a long-term water supply. Put the brakes on the desal plant. Now, as a footnote, it has not yet officially been abandoned, but for all practical purposes, I don't think we're going to see an expensive desal plant in Rockland County. And that's simply because the community was extraordinarily active. Rockland County is an amazing community. They have so many talented people, and they got off their duffs, they turned off the television sets, and they came outside. On one night in October, it was the first public statement hearing. I think it was September 30th, October 1st. Thank you, Harriet. She's sharp. Clarkstown High School auditorium. 1,000 people came out to speak, starting at 6 o'clock for an informational session. Then the speakers began around 7, and it didn't shut down until after 2 a.m. in the morning. It's the longest public statement hearing, to my knowledge, in Public Service Commission history. There was a commissioner there, along with an administrative law judge. Later that day, October 1st, then they went to Haverstraw, and another 500 people showed up. So it was clear that the vast majority of people were opposed to this project. So let me fast forward to where we are, because we're talking about planning for the future. You should not plan a water system based upon hostility and litigation and opposition from the community. These are things that are not appropriate. And there are still issues with United Water. I know Harriet and Patricia are working very hard to try to get them back under the tent. They didn't report that the task force commissioned from a well-known expert named Amy Vickers. They were upset because Amy Vickers was confused about the fact that there were 6 sets of data that she was given. It seems that United Water would give data to the health department, and that was one set. Then they would give data to the Public Service Commission, that was another set. Then they'd give data for another purpose with another set. And so she explained while she was working on her report, which was going to recommend some conservation potential. She said she went through a half a jar of aspirins because she was getting a headache. And that's an extraordinary concern. People should not be doubting the data that's coming from their community water utility. And I think that's still an issue that's on the table that has to be corrected. But the commission in the order in last November told United Water to go out and look at incremental water supply, and told them, tell us how much we can save in terms of conservation. And oh, by the way, while you're at it, go look at how much you can save through leaks, because United Water's non-revenue water, you've heard that term, okay, non-revenue water was averaging 21 to 22% over the last 5 years. That's outrageously ridiculous. The fact of the matter is that their own consultants recommended that they could get down to 15%. So if we do a little quick math, if they're using about 30 million gallons a day, and if you multiply that by a savings of about 7% to get it down to 15%, you've just found an awful lot of water. And you don't need a long-term water supply if you can find that water. Now, Amy Vickers, she said that if you tighten up the system, and she computed that the average main replacement program was running 700 years. So it would take 700 years for United Water to replace all the mains in their system. Not exactly a rapid pace. With leakage, she could bring that down to 2.5 to 3.3 million gallons a day. With her conservation potential, she found that there was about 1.9 to 3.6 MGD in conservation potential. So roughly she found that 4.4 to 7 MGD of potential from conservation and from leakage. Now, coincidentally, the desal plant was designed to be built at 7.5 MGD in 3 2.5 MGD modules. So remember, the first one I told you was 2.5 MGD was going to cost $153 million as of early 2013. But we can find that much water basically in conservation and in leak detection. Then the United Water was required to file a report on incremental water supply, and they did that on June 30th. And United Water found that there was 1 MGD potential in conservation, there was 1 MGD potential in leak detection, and 3 to 5 in incremental water supply. And by incremental water supply, we mean drilling new wells, expanding some additional sources of water. If anybody's down at Harriman Park, there's beautiful lakes there. Some of that could be tapped. United Water serves about 87% of the population in Rockland County. There are 2 public water supplies, Suffern and Nyack, and both of them do not use all the water that they are allowed to use. So United Water could go to them and look for water. So all of a sudden, we're looking at a potential where there are lots of incremental supply options should they be needed. They are not needed today because the average demand is about 29.5. The system supply is about 34.5. So there's a 5 million gallon a day surplus, and that's why the new Tappan Zee Bridge is being built. And guess what? Concrete uses a lot of water. So when that bridge is built in the next year or two, that demand is going to come back down again. So, you know, we think that Rockland has a very, very bright future. Under Harriet and Patrici's leadership, they're going to be putting together a good, solid, sustainable conservation plan. And I think that we'll all be retired before Rockland County needs a new long-term water supply source. Okay, anybody questions? No questions? Okay, ahead. Okay, break time.